Alright, solving two-step equations. Well, before we get started, let's talk about something we do every day. We put stuff down, and then we try to remember where we put it. So let's say that you had your cell phone, you get a call from your friend, and you leave your cell phone on the coffee table so you can go out and play with your friend. So you go out, you take a left, and you go out the door outside and play with your friend. Then it's time to come in and you forget where your cell phone is. Well, let's retrace our steps. You go back through the door, and now instead of taking a left, you take a right, and then you find it on the coffee table. Well, order of operations works the same way when you solve equations. So think, you are undoing the order of operations, so they must be done in reverse. Just like you went straight, then left, and then out the door. Now you go in the door, right, and back there. So you're going backwards or in reverse. So we use Pemdas to solve equations using inverse opposite operations. And notice we're doing them backwards, we're doing them in reverse. So we do add and subtract, then multiply and divide, and then we take care of our exponents or square roots, and then parentheses. So it's the same as what we were talking about. If you go left and then out the door, now you do the inverse, which is you go in the door and right. So we're just retracing our steps. Let's try an example with that. So 5x plus 6 equals negative 14, and we want to solve it. I like to circle the variable that tells me what needs to be by itself, and also draw a line down the equal sign, because I have a left side and I have a right side of my equation. So whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side, and vice versa. So if I'm adding 6, notice I'm looking at my key here. I add and subtract first. So if I'm adding 6, what's the inverse or opposite of that? Subtract 6. So I do it to both sides. And I know negative 14 minus 6 is getting more negative. So that would be negative 20 equals, I'm going to bring down what's left over. The 5x is what remains. We had 5x that did not cross off. And now I have another step because I need to get rid of the 5. Well, a number and a letter means multiply, so now we're on this step. So multiply, the inverse is divide. So I'm going to divide by 5. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. And that's going to give me 1x when I do 5 divided by 5. That's why it canceled. Then negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 4. All right. Now you'll see them written differently than that. In fact, I'm going to go over a confusing way that an equation can be written. So for example 2, let's write it so the numbers first and then the variables second. So 8 minus y over 3 equals 1. Remember, I have a left and a right side, so I'll draw the line down the middle. And I'm going to write Pemdas again to reference. Remember, it's Pemdas in reverse. So I need to add or subtract first, and I need to circle that variable because that's what I'm trying to isolate or get by itself. So who needs to get the boot? I need to kick out the 8 and the 3. Both of these guys need to go. Well, which one am I adding or subtracting? Well, not the 3. I'm dividing the 3, so it must be the 8. So look at the sign in front of the 8. It's really a positive 8. How are we going to make that 0, or how can I cancel that? Well, the inverse of positive is negative, so let's do minus 8 to cancel it. So what did we just learn? We look at the sign in front of the number. Again, that's very important, because if you looked at the sign after the number, you would have that wrong, because 8, if we would have added 8, would have been 16, and those would not have canceled then. Remember, your goal is to mark them off. So 8 minus 8 is nothing, so that cancels. And 1 minus 8 on the other side, it's getting more negative, so 1 minus 8 is really 8 minus 1, which is 7, and it's a negative 7, because our larger number is negative. And now I have negative y over 3. Notice what I did there. I brought down the minus sign. Now, since this is a minus y over 3, I can put the negative on either side. Where do you think I would rather put that negative? Well, I'm going to have less steps if I put that negative on the bottom. So I'm going to write that. I'm going to erase my negative, and I'm going to put the negative on the bottom. So negative fractions can have the negative on either side, but not both. Because what if they had them on both? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. That's pretty important, that negative fractions can have a negative on either side. And here I'm just being smart and I'm putting it on the bottom. Well, now I want to cancel my negative 3. So I'm dividing by negative 3 right now. So the inverse is multiplying by negative 3. Whenever I do to one side, I do to the other. And those cancel and become 1, so it's just 1y equals, and negative 7 times negative 3. I have an even number of negatives, so my answer is positive, 21. All right, let's try a word problem. Let's say Morgan is saving to buy a new iPad. And she currently has $233, but she's saving $24 each week. So solve the equation 24W plus 233 equals 449 to find out how many weeks it will take Morgan to save for her new iPad. Well, let's check this out. We've already written the equation, but let's talk about what it means. The W comes from the word week. So that means $24 per week, or each week. So that's the groups of week, which means why we are multiplying. And we're adding 233 because she already has $233. So that's like her starting point. And then this is her total that she needs, the 449. That's how much the iPad cost. All right, so let's try to solve this now. We have 24W plus 233 equals 449. And I'm going to circle W because that's what we're trying to solve for. And we're adding 233 to the W. So the inverse is subtracting 233. And then we get 24W equals, I'm just going to subtract here, 9 minus 3 is 6, 4 minus 3 is 1, and 4 minus 2 is 2. So I have 24W equals 216. Now, when I have a number and a letter, it means multiply, so the inverse is divide. So I divide to both sides. I might need to do a little bit of long division here. I'm going to look at that and just kind of round to get a rough idea. 24 is close to 25, right? And I know that's like quarters. So how many quarters will go into $2? Well, 4 quarters makes $1. So 8 quarters would make $2. But that's a little bit bigger, so I can try 8, but I think it's going to be 9. So let's do 24 times 8, and we'll get 32, 16, 19. So 192, that's a little short. But if I try 24 times 9, I get 36. 18 plus 3 is 21. So 9 is the correct answer. W is going to be 9. So in 9 weeks, she'll have enough. All right, we're going to try one more question. And I would like for you to try it on your own. So pause the video if you need to. And the question is 14 minus 12a equals negative 58. All right, now that you've had a chance to try it, let's go ahead and go over that. So first thing, draw our line, circle the A, and I need to subtract 14. Remember, we look at the sign in front of the 14. It's really a positive 14. So a minus 14 would cancel that and make it nothing. I do minus 14 on the other side. I'm going to add those up because they're like signs. And I get 72, and I keep the sign. And then when I bring it down, it's not just 12a. I also bring down the sign in front of the number. Very important. The sign in front of a number is attached to that number. So the negative comes down with it. And now I need to solve for a, so I'm multiplying by negative 12. I divide by negative 12. And then 1a, or a, equals, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 12 will go into 72 6 times. So there's our answer. And now let's go over the check step, because you can do this on any equation. So if you have time, this is always a great thing to do. We can plug it back in to the very top. So for our check, we would write 14 minus 12, and instead of putting an a there, I would plug in a 6 in parentheses equals negative 58. So I just want to make sure the left side equals the right side. So I would do that math. I would multiply first using order of operations, because all I'm doing is simplifying. And negative 12 times 6 is negative 72. Bring down my 14. 14 minus 72. They're unlike signs, so I'm going to subtract them and keep the sign of the larger number, so it's going to be negative. And 12 minus 4 is 8. Borrow here, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So it's negative 58 equals negative 58, and it checks. All right, that wraps it up.